of Asaba, where the street tells the stories every single day.
From the corridors of powers to the decisions shaping governance and politics in Delta and Nigeria.
From traders counting every naira to families battling rising costs and uncertain times.
From football pitches to sporting successes to the major developments making the headlines all over the world.
And from the untold human stories, the struggles, victories, resilience, and hope of the everyday Nigerians.
This is the news beyond the headlines. Dott TV News are your trusted window to stories that truly matter to the people. Here, we don't just report events, we tell the human stories behind them. Thanks for joining us on Dott TV News at 4. I am Ife Arono. Here are the stories we have for you right now. The Delta State High Court sitting in Asaba has adjourned the alleged murder trial of 5 police officers following fresh developments in the case, including the arrest of a new suspect. The officers were present in court alongside members of the family of the deceased, Ogenemine Ogidi. Priscilla Ifani reports.
Proceedings resumed before Justice M. Nduka at High Court 4 in Asaba, with the 5 police officers standing trial present in court alongside members of the deceased family. No witness was called after the prosecution informed the court that a suspect previously declared at large had been arrested. The prosecution now added that the case file relating to the newly arrested suspect had yet to be served on counsel to the defendants. In view of the development, Justice M. Nduka declined to entertain the defendant's bail application pending the release and service of the case file on their counsel. Counsel to the defendants reacted to the court's decisions and outlined the next step in the matter.
New evidence came to light, so they need to go and put their house in order. It's just sad that it somewhat affected our case today, but then we'll come back on Thursday, the 16th of July, and then definitely we'll see how it goes from there. As far as getting to the prosecution, we can't speak to that because it's in the custody of the police, but I trust in the Ministry of Justice, so we hope that they are already making plans for that.
The case was subsequently adjourned until July 16, 2026 for further proceedings. Reporting from Asaba, Priscilla Ifani, Dott TV News.
Well, the Delta State Police Command says it has arrested 8 suspected criminals and recovered 4 locally made firearms in different operations in the fight against armed robbery and cultism across the state. A police statement said 2 suspected armed robbers identified as Stephen Danladi and Jude Christian and a suspected gun runner, Jerry Egenus, were arrested during an intelligence-led operation in Asaba and Isele Asaba, where 2 locally made pistols were also recovered. In separate operations, operatives of Ogara Division also arrested 4 suspected cultists after intercepting a silver Lexus RS330 SUV with a locally made gun and a live cartridge from the vehicle. Also, operatives of Ogwashuku Division mobilized to the Polytechnic area arrested a 24-year-old non-student suspected to be a cultist with a locally made pistol, 3 live cartridges, 1 expended cartridge, and 1 dagger knife, with investigations still ongoing. And away from that now, the recent reaffirmation by the Asaba of the traditional prohibition of the sale of obono seeds, locally known as okurenu, in Asaba's indigenous markets, has generated widespread reactions from residents. While the palace said the directive was rooted in the kingdom's long-standing customs and traditions, many residents have expressed differing views on the development. Cynthia Adenaya visited one of Asaba's indigenous markets, the Obogonogo market, to sample public opinion on the matter.
The announcement has sparked mixed reactions among residents. Some respondents support the decision, saying every community has a right to preserve its cultural heritage and traditions.
There is a time they went for occasion in ABC, the mother of Asaba, went with them and she was putting on whites. They were going to that place, they had decided to eat food. And that this so-called Nabono, they are trying to eat. So the oil stained the cloth and he did not know. Then they started asking, what is the meaning of that thing? You know, and start telling them that is the food. That is where I know about that, the banning of Abono. And whereby when you go to that Onishe, you see Abono standing at the side of the river Niger. The leaf can never fall inside the river to show that Abono should not be eaten in Asaba. And whereby if you are eating it, you have no right to go to that place.
If the Asaba said that everybody will sell an Abono, the Asaba will safe. He will not like the need to come and meet him. You want to protect everybody in Asaba because of this Abono. It's very, very painful. If you go to other side, you go to this Buzona. He can't sell. He can't get this account. This rapid. He can't sell in the rapid in Onisha. You go to the Ila. The Ila people have their own something. Asaba will not be the Abono can never be different. If anybody want to sell in, you don't want to stay in Asaba. You want to be the Abono. You can't let it pack away from Asaba.
Others, particularly traders and consumers, have expressed concern over the possible impact of the directive on their livelihoods and access to the product within the city.
It's not necessary for me. Very bad, very bad, very brutal.
We feel bad about it because in my place we do eat it, but in Asaba they do forbid it. So it's a tradition. We can't stop them.
Thing is not really okay, but if it's their own tradition and their rules, we are meant to follow it.
An indigene of Asaba who spoke during an interview appealed to the non-indigenes living and doing business in the city to respect the customs and traditions of their host community. According to the respondent, every ethnic group and community in Nigeria has traditions that visitors are expected to respect. The respondent also urged non-indigenes to support efforts aimed at preserving Asaba cultural heritage.
Asaba has turned to a developed city that sojourners and dwellers of non-indigens has come to dwell. But I believe that in their own personal home, personal states, and personal villages, they do have traditions which they protect sacred. Let them not take it as an offense or take it that it is wrong because this is the tradition of Asaba. Let them try to help Asaba keep their own tradition sacred as well as they do their own.
Market leaders have been directed to sensitize traders, while traditional authorities say measures will be put in place to ensure compliance with the directive. Their affirmation of the traditional prohibition has once again brought the relationship between cultural heritage and modern-day commerce into public discussion. While some residents view the directive as a necessary step towards preserving traditions, others hope for continued dialogue and greater public awareness. Reporting from Asaba, Cynthia Adenaya, Dott TV News.
And from Delta to Oyo State, where Governor Seyi Makinde is calling on the United Nations and international human rights organizations to investigate the abduction of school children and teachers in Orire Local Council of the state on May 15. Makinde, in a broadcast after receiving the rescued pupils and their teachers in his office in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, said the circumstances surrounding the incident were sufficiently grave and unusual to warrant independent scrutiny beyond domestic institutions. The victims, escorted in a convoy led by the General Officer Commanding GOC to the Division Nigerian Army, Chinedu Nebife, arrived at the governor's office at Godi Ibadan at exactly 4:11 p.m. on Monday before they were ushered into the Executive Council chamber, where they were officially handed over to the state government. Recall that bandits had on May 15, 2026 attacked 3 schools in Yawota and Ahoro Esienle communities in Orire local government area of Oyo State, abducting the 39 pupils and 6 teachers.
The circumstances surrounding this incident are sufficiently grave and unusual to warrant independent scrutiny beyond our domestic institutions. I therefore, with a full sense of responsibility as the Executive Governor of Oyo State, call on the appropriate international human rights and accountability mechanisms, including those within the United Nations system, to closely examine the facts surrounding this abduction and the circumstances of its resolution. Such scrutiny is not intended to undermine our institutions. Rather, it is intended to reinforce public confidence that the truth will be established and that every person found to bear responsibility, regardless of office, influence, or affiliation, will be held accountable. Under the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the primary responsibility for national security rests with the federal government and the security agencies under its command. The Nigerian people, therefore, deserve a full and transparent account of what happened, who was responsible, whether there were institutional failures, negligence, or collusion at any level, and what measures must now be taken to ensure that no community is ever subjected to such an ordeal again. This is not about politics. It is about justice for the victims, reassurance for our people, and restoring public confidence that every Nigerian child can go to school without fear.
And in a swift reaction, the presidency on Monday criticized Oyo State Governor Seyi Makinde over his call for a United Nations-led investigation into the abduction of pupils and teachers in the state, describing the demand as unnecessary and politically motivated. The special advisor to the president on information and strategy, Bayo Ononuga, said the governor's request suggested a lack of confidence in Nigeria's security institutions, insisting that the military and other security agencies had already provided explanations on the rescue operation. Ononuga, in an interview with The Punch, said the presidency had no objection to an international body examining the incident if Makinde believed there were unresolved issues. According to him, the rescue operation came at a cost, with some security personnel, including members of the military and Amoteco, losing their lives while pursuing the abductors. In the meantime, the First Lady Oluremi Tinubu has said President Bola Tinubu is passionate about establishing a sustainable school feeding program, expressing confidence that it would be firmly in place before the end of the administration. She stated this on Tuesday while receiving a 5-member delegation from the World Bank, led by its country director for Nigeria, Matthew Vehis, at the State House, Abuja. Speaking during the engagement, the First Lady stressed the importance of investing in children from an early age to improve their growth and future prospects. She noted that the federal government remained committed to initiatives that would improve the lives of Nigerians. Coming up shortly on the news at 4, Yemen's Houthis launched missiles at Saudi Arabia after strikes on Sana'a airport. Well, that's on foreign news. We also have sports news after the break. Please do not go away.
In the heart of Asaba, where the street tells the stories every single day.
From the corridors of powers to the decisions shaping governance and politics in Delta and Nigeria.
From traders counting every naira to families battling rising costs and uncertain times.
From football pitches to sporting successes to the major developments making the headlines all over the world.
And from the untold human stories, the struggles, victories, resilience, and hope of the everyday Nigerians.
This is the news beyond the headlines. Dott TV News are your trusted window to stories that truly matter to the people. Here, we don't just report events, we tell the human stories behind them. Thanks for staying with us on Dot TV News at 4. Now, here is the rest of our stories. The Abia State government has secured the conviction of 2 child sexual offenders who were sentenced to 30 and 10 years imprisonment, respectively, in separate defilement cases, in what it described as a major breakthrough in the state's campaign against sexual and gender-based violence. One of the offenders, a 35-year-old man from Akwa Ibom State, was sentenced to 10 years imprisonment by a family court sitting at the High Court in Umuahia for defiling a 5-year-old girl, while another 32-year-old man received a 30-year prison sentence after being convicted of defiling a 13-year-old girl. The Commissioner for Information, Oke Kano, disclosed this on Tuesday in Umuahia, while briefing journalists on the outcome of this week's State Executive Council meeting presided over by Governor Alex Oti. Kano said the convictions underscored the administration's zero-tolerance policy towards sexual offenses and served as a warning to perpetrators. Meanwhile, the Abia State Police Command has raided several criminal hideouts across the state and arrested 31 suspects over alleged possession of illicit drugs. The command disclosed this in a statement issued on Monday by its Police Public Relations Officer Maureen Chinaka on behalf of the Commissioner of Police Danladi Issa. According to the statement, the suspects comprise 13 men aged between 22 and 46 and 1 woman. Chinaka said the operation followed a directive by the Commissioner of Police to intensify raids on criminal enclaves across the state. While elsewhere, the family of a missing farmer, Abdulaziz Abiodun, popularly known as Kebe, has appealed to security agencies to investigate the circumstances surrounding his death after his body was allegedly found in a bush in Ising local government area of Kwara State. Speaking with newsmen, the deceased's second daughter, Abdulaziz Rufayat, urged security agencies, human rights organizations, the media, and well-meaning Nigerians to ensure that those responsible for the alleged killing of her father are identified and brought to justice. Rufayat said her father left his residence in Isalu, Ising local government area, at about 7 a.m. on Saturday, the 11th of July, 2026, for his cocoa farm in Owonire, where he earned his livelihood, but failed to return home later that day, prompting concern among family members. She explained that after repeated attempts to reach him proved unsuccessful, the family alerted local hunters and members of the community, who immediately launched a search operation. Well, on foreign news, Yemen's Houthis say they launched missiles at Abha Airport, and that's in southwestern Saudi Arabia on Monday, in response to airstrikes on Sanaa's airport that they blamed on the kingdom. The Saudi-led coalition in Yemen, which backs the country's internationally recognized government, said its air defenses dealt with the missiles and no casualties were reported. The Houthis, who control northwestern Yemen and are backed by Iran, earlier accused Saudi Arabia of blatant aggression, saying it had struck the runway of Sanaa's airport. The strike was claimed by Yemen's government, which said it wanted to prevent an Iranian plane from landing. For more news on the foreign scene, let's join Emeka Okonkwo.
Starting with Bangkok, Thai authorities are investigating if negligence was what led to the deadly inferno at a Bangkok bar late on Sunday, as survivors reported doors being locked and the lack of signage demarcating emergency exits. The use of flammable materials as decoration may have facilitated the rapid spread of the fire, which originated near the stage. The blaze has left at least 30 people dead and dozens more injured. First responders found many of the victims in the restrooms at the end of the bar, from where experts believe they tried to flee but couldn't. As of Tuesday morning, 27 of the deceased victims have been identified, authorities said. More than 70 people are injured, 24 of them critically. Preliminary investigations suggest the blaze was caused by a short circuit in an air conditioner, which quickly cut power throughout the bar. But several people who had visited the bar earlier have described it as a dark room, even in its original state. Meanwhile, a Sudanese court has sentenced the leader of the Paramilitary Rapid Support Force, RSF, Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, to death for war crimes, crimes against humanity, and genocide over the atrocities committed in the West Darfur region. The court in Port Sudan, a city under the army's rule, convicted Dagalo, known as Head Meti, in absentia, along with 15 other senior RSF members who were given the same sentence. The Sudan Founding Alliance, which includes the RSF, told the BBC it was sham trial that does not even deserve a comment. The trial centered on alleged atrocities committed in the regional capital, El Geneinoa, including the June 2023 killing of the state governor, Kamis Abaka. The court also found the 16 defendants guilty of orchestrating attacks on civilians, widespread destruction and looting of property, and the targeting of schools, places of worship, and residential neighborhoods. In another development, Immigration and Customs Enforcement agent has fatally shot a Colombian national during an immigration enforcement operation in the U.S. state of Maine, a week after the agency used deadly force against another migrant in Texas traffic stop. In the latest incident, Immigration and Customs Enforcement ICE said agents were watching an address for a person with a final order of removal in Bedford at around 7:00 on Monday. When ICE tried to stop someone driving from that address, the vehicle attempted to flee the scene, and fearing for public safety, an officer discharged his weapon, ICE said, adding the driver of the vehicle was struck. Dozens of demonstrators gathered in Bedford afterwards. ICE did not share details on why the officer feared for safety.
Upstairs to the third floor window, and I saw a small sedan perpendicular to the curb with a white SUV this direction along the street. I then saw the lights, and this was post what I later found out was a shooting incident. The small sedan then turned, came here in front of us, and then was hit again by the SUV, bumped. And so that's when it stopped. The ICE agent got out of the car. He tried to open the sedan's door, but for some reason it was either locked or jammed. He managed to open it. It pulled out the person with his bloody head, bloody face. He is really sad.
Elsewhere, the Hungarian parliament has voted to remove President Tamás Sulyk from office, who was widely seen as a loyalist of former Prime Minister Viktor Orban, who lost power in April after 16 years. Prime Minister Peter Magyar's Tisza party used its two-thirds majority to steamroll through the 17th Amendment to the Constitution, ending the term of Sulyk and the head of the Constitutional Court, Peter Paul. It was the most dramatic day in Parliament since the new government took office in early May after its surprise landslide victory against Orban's Fidesz party on 12th April. Sulyk now has 5 days to sign the amendment, his own political death warrant, or refer it to the Constitutional Court. If Sulyk refers it to the court, Magyar has said he will launch impeachment proceedings against him, which would suspend him from office automatically. I am Emeka Okonkwo reporting for Dott TV News.
Here is sports news with Anthony Uche.
We start today's sports news with Nigeria's Super Falcons opening their training camp in Casablanca, marking their final preparations for the 2026 Women's Africa Cup of Nations. Head coach Justin Madugu named his 25-player squad for the tournament last week, and the pre-tournament camp opened on Monday. The 9-time African champions will use the base in Casablanca to fine-tune preparations before traveling to Rabat for their Group C fixtures. Madugu's side look to win a record-extending 12th continental title, as well as secure Nigeria's place at the 2027 FIFA Women's World Cup in Brazil, as the 4 highest-placed teams at the tournament will earn automatic qualification for the global showpiece. The defending champions begin their campaign on Tuesday, July 28, at the Al Madina Stadium in Rabat against Malawi. Super Eagles goalkeeper Stanley Nwabali has rejoined South African Premier Soccer League side Chippa United ahead of the 2026-2027 season. Confirming the move in an official statement, the club said it was delighted to welcome the goalkeeper back to the Chili Boys following his time away. Nwabali's departure from the club following the end of the Africa Cup of Nations 2026 raised eyebrows with his prolonged absence from the sticks, costing him a place in Eric Chell's team. Now to the FIFA World Cup. In the wake of Colombia's exit, Colombia midfielder Yametin Campas and his family have received death threats after he missed a critical scoring opportunity in the round of 16 fixture against Switzerland. Campas's fears are well and truly justified, as only 32 years ago, during the 1994 World Cup in the United States of America, defender Andres Escobar scored an own goal in a 2-1 loss to the host nation. Days after the team were eliminated and returned home, Escobar was murdered in Medellin. Colombia Football Federation has now urged the country's Attorney General's office to expedite and investigate to identify those behind those threats. Still on the World Cup, France and Spain will face off at 8 p.m. Nigerian time today to determine the first finalists of the tournament. From the sports desk, Anthony Uche for Dott TV News.
And with that, we conclude our package on Dott TV News at 4. Thank you for watching. Follow Dott TV across social media at official.tv. I am Ifi Arono. Thanks for watching and stay with us.